Welcome to Make a Path Presents. My name is Ronnie Hayes, and today we're going to talk about tips on how to create comic book panels from your story. Listen guys, this is something I'm going to start doing along the way because I think it's interesting. Now keep in mind, I'm not a professional comic book creator at all. I don't have a vast amount of experience. The only thing I have is the experience that I've been doing so far over the past few years working on this comic book. No, it's probably only 2 years now working on this comic book, and this is my future project I'm hopefully coming out with. But right now I want to talk about getting your story and turning it into panels. Now we're not talking about art, we're talking about just figuring out where things are going to go. I looked at a lot of how to make comic book YouTube videos. I watch a lot. Like if I'm hopping in the shower, I'll find some, play some while I'm in the shower. If I'm getting dressed, like I'm playing videos. I just try to soak up and absorb, take in as much information as I can when I'm trying to educate myself on something. And not just like, a how-to book, just one. And then it's like, oh, how to do this. But all these other different experiences from other people. Some opinions and tips and tricks might overlap, but it's alright because I just want to get as much knowledge as possible. But I barely see anyone talking about their process on taking the story and creating panels with it. I see artists saying, okay, this is how I'm going to do the panel, but I'm specifically talking about, and this is something difficult that I underestimated when I first started doing the comic. So when I'm talking to you, I'm just talking about what I did specifically. There could be an easier way that someone knows out there. If you've got any opinions, please put them down below. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but this is what I've been doing so far. So if you have a different idea or if you have more experience, put that down in the comment box, and I would really love some help, as well as other people out there doing comics. So what I'm talking about is you get your piece of paper, you get your pen, and you write your story how you want. Now in comic book format, I've seen a couple scripts where it has the panels, like panel 1, and then it's like medium panel, small panel, like splash page, all that. So I'm not talking about how to write the script for that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you write your story, if you write, let's say, dude hides behind wall, dude peeks out of wall, dude sees half man, half machine, tear someone's head off. That's good. Now you're writing your story, the dude's hiding, he peeks around the wall, sees this half man, half machine, rip somebody's head off. The easiest way to do it when you're first writing the story, and this is what we're talking about, the very beginning, the very basics. When I go to write my story, what I will do originally is I will put a dot right here when I begin, okay, and then I write what happens. Alright, now so basically, and I chicken scratch this on my leg, so don't worry. So basically, I put my dots here, and then I write each scene. And it's got to be a new scene. Now, when you're writing this, you don't have to go into details and specifically, because that is saved for when you come back and polish it. Some of the story you might actually scrap. So what's the point in going into fine details specifically of where it's at, what the wall? I mean, put things that you are going to need to remember, or when you're writing it, you'll know what things need to be included. But this is not the polishing phase. Sorry. What I mean by that is when you take something like dude hides behind a wall. Now when you go, if you're like, okay, that's how the story's going to go, and I'm going to polish this up, I would write, the dude's name, and it would be where they're at, what wall they're hiding. Is it a wall in a house? Is it a wall outside? Is it a ruins? Is it the post-apocalyptic? Is it a war zone? Is it just a regular neighborhood? Like, you polish that up and make it proper. As proper as it needs to be for the comic book description. Now the reason why I do the dots here is because then I can sit there and say, now again, this is a system that I've done just doing it. I have not heard anyone talk about this. I do not know what regular comic book people do. So if you're a comic book artist out there and you've been doing it, have a lot of experience, and there's a certain specific way that people do it, and I am not doing that, keep in mind, this is something that I just created, and it might seem stupid to a lot of people, but it actually helped me out, and I think maybe it might help some of you out too. So again, like I said, you see these dots here, and then you'll know when you're looking at your pages and panels, this is where you go, okay, look at, I got 3 dots here. That could be the 3 panels, 1, 2, 3, or the smaller blocks, or we can do 2 medium blocks, 1 long block that will take up here, and then we have a 4th one. So we got these 4 dots. That part of the story is going to represent page 1, and then we got these other 5 dots. We're going to put those in 5 panels on page 2, and in page 3 we got these 7 dots. Those are going to be 7 panels on page 3. So you can kind of get an idea of how your story is going to play out. So then you can put in your beats and your cliffhanger. What's especially important, in my opinion, is putting some kind of reveal on when you're flipping over the comic. That big reveal, whether it's just half the page or the whole page, should be on the page when you're flipping it over. That way, if it's on the opposite page, when you flip this over, they might actually see it. Now, I'm not saying you have to always do that. I'm just saying keep in mind when you're doing that, if you want that reveal to happen when they flip the page, it's more effective. If it's something that's small and it doesn't matter, then fine, it doesn't matter. But this way you can use these dots and kind of place your story out. Now, another way from this, and this is how else I believe it helps, and I've seen people take their story and they'll actually write out little stick figure panels, how it would break down. They'll, even if they're not the artist, they will make a stick figure image, just a rough draft, so to speak, of how it would look. So you'll have your first page, panel 1, they'll just write a guy, behind a wall. Panel 2, they'll write a guy peeking around the corner, or maybe like a little arrow showing that's what he's doing, shit like that. I've seen people talk about doing things like that. However, I just find this to be so easy. When you're first sitting down to doing the story, you just do dot, dude is running away, dot, dude jumps over a car, dot, dude hides behind the car, dot, car gets shot up. Now, when you're going back and polishing the story, or maybe when you're taking that and putting it to the panel on the page, you might connect 2 of those dots and say, okay, you know what, line here, connect it here, because when he hides behind the car, we're also going to see the car getting shot up. I mean, it all depends on what's happening action-wise in your story and how you want to pace it out. So I really, really hope that's helpful. Listen, I'm real new to what other people do, or professionals, as far as taking their story and turning it into, a comic book. I'm real new. Like, I've read and looked into a lot of what artists do, but as far as like the story guy, you know what I'm saying? Because my comic, I'm not going to do the art. I'm going to have an artist doing the art. So I'm going to be doing just the story. And when I'm trying to look up information on comic artists or writers who have a team like this, there's not a lot of information. Either that, or I'm just not looking up the right videos for that information. So again, maybe we'll go into better detail, or maybe we'll cover some other kind of tip later on in the future. But this is just one small tip I thought would be useful for anyone else out there that's getting into comic books, that you're just the writer. Maybe you're the writer and artist, and you wanted a different way to kind of separate your panels at the same time that you're writing, because I think that is really effective. Also, then when you do the dot and you do your basic idea of what's happening, later when you come and polish that up, you can give all the descriptions of how the robot's in mid-run and he's aiming to shoot at the same time that the guy's running down a city street with cars that are burning. You can put all that detailed information afterwards, once you get your basic idea of the story down. Anyway, I really hope this helps. If it did help, let me know down in the comment box. If this is actually completely useless and there's a more effective system out there, let me know down in the comment box, because I would absolutely love some tips myself. Alright, thoughts and opinions down there. I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.